Hey, hello everyone, and this is Terry, and I am going to demonstrate my technique for repotting, specifically the Phalaenopsis that you typically get from the big box Phalaenopsis stores of, orchids.com, Big Leaf, Gets in '05. Um, there's a few others, Spring Water. Anywho, anytime you get this plastic cup that has the plant in sphagnum, now I'm talking about Phalaenopsis, but it can be any import plant. These plastic cups mean import, and they come from Taiwan, most likely. Can be anywhere in Asia, but most likely it's Taiwan, and it's been in that sphagnum moss since it left Taiwan, generally. And so beyond the 3 month kind of requirement of acclimating the plant from that environment in Taiwan where it left to your environment here at home, to the point where it gets, the sphagnum moss gets very funky. Now, in my culture with my Phalaenopsis like this, now this is my gigabell, my Phal gigabell. And I have not had this for 3 months, but the it is giving me a little bit of a pause. The flower that it did have on it just finished blooming, and it does have another flower spike on it. This is the one that finished blooming, but you can see that this moss is not fresh at all, and it is funky. It is compacted. So I am getting it out of here, and I'm getting it into the Phal mix that I like to use. So, and since this is a gigabell, I'm going to kind of put it in a really big pot. But let's get it out of this sphagnum, which should not take any time at all, because in my culture, as I've said, if you're watching this video, you probably do the same thing, or you're thinking about it. My reservoir method, I pulled this out of this. Well, it was inside of the cup, the little plastic cup, but it was inside the mug. And you can see that there's a reservoir. Well, it doesn't have a hole in the bottom, so the plant is constantly wicking up. And generally when you get these plants, the sphagnum is dry, and the roots are all bundled at the bottom. And you can see them as, green tips, like this one, for example. This is a green tip root. That's one emerging there. And then this is for really fresh velamen. This is the velamen, and this is the green root tip. Anyway, the whole root is covered in velamen. But this is what you would normally see at the bottom. And as the plant acclimates and gets that moisture from the semi-hydro technique or culture that I'm more or less using, from the reservoir, water from the reservoir being sucked up or wicked up by the roots, those roots at the bottom, when they get their adequate supply of moisture, then they start looking for the air, and they move from the bottom up to the top. And so when you look at the bottom of the pot at that time, or you look at the pot in general, as I was saying, you can see the roots kind of coming from the top rather than the green tips at the bottom, where the roots at the bottom, when it's time to repot, are pretty much non-existent, or they're dead roots. Whereas before, like I said, the roots are all green tip gathered at the bottom. So that's another telltale sign that the plant has acclimated itself, and the sphagnum is no longer serving its purpose. And as I'm taking this out, like I said before, I'm not really a fan of that smelling like fungi test, but this one smells more like sewage, honestly. It smells more like rotten. It smells like sewage. It's beyond the mushroom stage. So really I'm just picking that sphagnum apart gently to preserve these roots. Usually I would have soaked it a little bit more than I have this time, because I know that usually these plants are packed with, the roots are packed in there so tight inside of the sphagnum that generally a lot of times when you finally get the sphagnum off, it just falls off and the roots kind of just fall out too in a clump. But this one was kind of way past needing to be repotted, which is why it's earlier than 3 months. I mean, you can see that it has been killing roots, because here are what I would say are the first roots, which are all dead. And this is the bottom of the plant, but yet the top of the plant are new roots emerging, trying to keep the plant alive. So if I'd have left it in there a little bit longer, I probably would not have this plant. And maybe, anyway, I'm not just going to leave it at that. This is a free plant. All right, so that's clean enough for me. I don't really clip roots and clean off the plant. I do the best I can. There's nobody out in the rainforest that is trimming and doing all of that. So what I am going to do is I have my pot here, and here is just a little bowl of the mix that I use. I should get some peanuts, but to raise the level of the plant, but I won't. And also peanuts they cover the hole in the bottom. But this has good drainage in it as already, so it's got pieces of leca and shards, and it's got some perlite in there. So I will do my best to, number one, not make a mess, and number two, not to bury the pot too deep or the plant too deep. Okay, turn it around this way. So that's probably as well. I can put a little bit more over here on this side, but really that's good enough. It will fill in as it gets watered, and it will be getting a really good deep watering. Again, that is my gigabell, and I will put the label there and put that off to the side and get the next plant, which is this one. Okay, this is Phalaenopsis spot Eagle Montclair. And again, you can see the roots all gathered at the bottom. Those green tip roots, but you can see some coming back up to the top as well. And you can see the state of the sphagnum moss. It looks pretty bleak. So let's take it out and see. This one should just pop out because it was in a nice reservoir, and should really just slide out press the sides a little bit to, there we go. All right, so you can see that once you kind of unfurl those roots gently, how you can easily get into the moss. Nice roots. There again, you can see the color of the sphagnum, that it's much, much darker than what it should be. Should be more that color. Okay, and that's clean enough. All right, and I've got a nice clear cup here. That's too small. Let's try this one. Much better. So, just backfill. Not so much concerned with the aerial roots, because they will do what they want to do. And I think if you get aerial roots, that's a good sign that you have humidity. Because if not, the roots would be going back down into the media where the moisture is, because they're constantly seeking the moisture. And if they're in the air, then there must be moisture in the air. Okay, and that's that plant. You can still see the roots in there. And then I'll set that one aside. And let me do one more because it's kind of redundant. Let's do this one, which is in a nice big pot. And this plant is one of my alberias, which is Tetraspis times pucara. And again, I am going to just push it up to get it out as gently as I can. And there we go. And look at that sphagnum. Look at the state of that. Okay, so just going to peel it away gently. And you can see those roots are probably all dead. Look at how moist they are. So this was really a good time. The leaf down here was yellowing at the base. And honestly, as I look at it, I don't see many, or if any, live roots. Although these roots that look like mush can still be live. And looks like there's some green in there that's kind of coming alive now. So I wasn't saying the plant was dead. In fact, what I was saying was my belief is that even some of these roots that look like they could be desiccated, I think they have the ability to form new roots off of them. Miraculously, I've seen it done before. So, and because of the state of these roots, I'm really trying to make an extra effort to get as much of this old sphagnum off. So that is the goal. Sorry if it's too close. Okay. I think that's pretty fair. And I'm hoping that these roots really do rejuvenate. Look at this spike that's just curling itself around. I'm just going to leave it, let it go. So I have this weirdo pot right here. And look, I saw that leaf just fall. But I have this pot that can hang, and this would be good hung up, because the species do appreciate a little bit more light, and they definitely will like this air that gets through the sides, and hopefully that will promote more root growth. So, like I've done with the others, just filling it in. Like that. Tapping it, filling all of those roots in with the air, making sure that it's packed in, evenly distributed. So yeah, I'm really loving this mix. This is the Phalaenopsis mix that I've talked about before, that I got at the Green Barn plant supply place out of Florida. So there's that plant. And where did I put the tag? Here we go. Okay, and I'll set that there. And the mix that I'm using once again is Green Barn Foul Mix, Coconut Core, Hydrogen, Fir Bark, and Sponge Rock. My favorite. So yeah, I hope that explains some, and these will get a very, very, very long soak. And I will probably, what I will do is I have that green plastic tray outside. I'll fill that with rainwater. It's already filled with rainwater, and I'll just set these in there, and they will get watered from above, and then they'll sit in there and soak all day and make sure the whole plant and root gets, well, I won't do it outside, but inside because it's too cold. But anyway, that is essential, that soak after repotting, and the soak is just in water, not any fertilizer. And I would hold off on fertilizer, in fact, until you start to see new roots coming or new leaves. And that's pretty much how I do it. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your orchids and your Phalaenopsis. Bye.